Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. My name is Morgan Cheney. I'm our head of marketing here at Blueboard, and with me is Taylor Smith, our co-founder and CEO.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really excited to have you here. We're looking at the attendee list, and it's pretty cool to see that not only are a lot of our customers joining us, but also a lot of new faces as well. So I thought I'd start by give you a quick 30-second overview of Blueboard, and then we'll dive into the topic for today. So Blueboard, we're a San Francisco-based rewards and recognition company, but our twist on employee rewards is a little bit different. Instead of gift cards or merchandise, rewards points, electronics like most companies, all Blueboard rewards are experiences. So if your employees are lucky enough to get Blueboard rewards, they could choose to take their significant other on a couples massage, or to maybe jump out of an airplane for the first time and go skydiving, or to take a cooking class, or maybe to take their kids to Disneyland. And this picture right here is actually our most famous experience. We do a James Bond experience where we actually turn people into James Bond for the day. So you can actually jump out of a plane with a friend wearing a tuxedo. You can drive an Aston Martin all afternoon, and then you also get to learn to make the perfect martini that night. And so it's a really, really fun experience that we offer. But I am excited to talk today about this idea of delivering human-centric programs at scale, and specifically why these programs are important to attracting and retaining the best talent, as well as how to think about scaling these programs. And so today, a couple times throughout the chat, we're going to send out some polls. So we're going to send out the first one right now, and would love to start with the question: Are you interested more in investing time and resources into HR tech that helps you achieve scale, or personalization? And today, what I'm going to do is really dig in and evaluate the question of whether or not personalization and scale might be mutually exclusive when it comes to HR programs. A lot of companies that we talk to feel like they need to make a choice between scalability and personalization. And interesting, as the results come in, it seems like most of you are more interested in personalization. It's coming closer to 50-50. We'll talk about both today, but we'll definitely be touching on personalization. And we hear about this trade-off all the time when talking to our clients, about recognition specifically, but after years of working with hundreds of HR practitioners, it's pretty apparent to us that this notion of scale versus personalization applies to pretty much every HR program. And so today, we're going to talk about 4 main topics. We are going to talk about 4 simple truths for delivering a human-centric HR strategy, specifically around the ideas of attracting and retaining the best talent. We're going to take a look at human needs and why personalization is so important using Maslow's hierarchy. We're going to share a framework that we use internally here at Blueboard for optimal HR and people programs. And finally, we're going to go through a case study, a practical application of the framework using employee recognition specifically, and we'll finish up with time for questions. And quick housekeeping notes. If you have any questions along the way, you can give us a shout out in the Q&A area, which there should be a button on the upper left of your screen. And then a couple times during the session, we'll send out some more polls like we did just now. And lastly, if you hear something you feel like tweeting, feel free to use the hashtag humanHR, and you can tag us at Blueboard. But anyways, let's get started with our first of 4 simple truths. And so truth number 1. To attract and retain the best talent, understand what people want and deliver it. Let's say it again. To attract and retain top talent, understand what people want and then deliver it. And simple, right? It's a simple enough idea, but obviously most of you know it's an incredibly tough problem to solve, given the complexity of today's workforce with multiple generations, international employees and such. And let's zero in on the most important part of this question: what people want. Because ultimately what people want will define how we think of personalization. But how do you figure out what people want? It's a much more difficult question than it seems, because what people want and expect out of a job is evolving very rapidly. And this question is highlighted by a conversation I was having with one of our clients a couple months ago. And she was really frustrated. And she said, "Taylor, what do millennials want?" And I could totally understand why she was worried, because if you look at the stats on millennial workers, They're completely awful. We are the largest generation in the workforce. We're the least engaged generation, and we also stay at our jobs for under 3 years. And focusing purely on workforce stats makes millennials look like awful workers. But these facts actually lead us down a straight path of thinking of millennials purely as workers. And it was clear to me that my client was thinking of the millennial as a worker, but not as a person. And so I asked her a question back. And I said, to better understand millennials, maybe we should take a look at what they spend their time and money on outside of work. And instantly it clicked for her. And what had happened is that there's a tendency for people to think of a clear division between people as workers and people outside of work in their personal lives. And this is a deeply rooted idea that started in the industrial age and manufacturing lines back in the 1700s, but it's continued and persisted through the beginning of most baby boomers' careers. And to better understand this division, I'm going to pull up a framework we all know, Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. And for baby boomers, there were two driving factors to them selecting their jobs early in their careers. And it was the bottom two rungs of Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, physiological needs and safety needs. So a salary to pay for food and to buy a house, health insurance for safety, and they wanted to get security, so they sought out jobs with pension. And work and the worker self really did fulfill the bottom two rungs, but to fulfill the top three rungs of their needs, baby boomers typically looked outside of work. So that's why we see a lot of involvement in community organizations like the Rotary Club, bowling leagues, and their families and communities by way of their neighborhoods in the suburbs. And long story short, boomers selected their jobs and expected personalization only as it pertained to the bottom two levels of Maslow's hierarchy. But now let's take a look at millennials and what millennials want. According to Gallup, millennials want a lot of things. They want alignment with their company's mission, vision, and values. They want to feel a sense of purpose, that their work's making a real impact. They want to have an authentic connection to their coworkers. They want autonomy to chart their own career path. And it becomes clear very quickly that millennials are a very different generation with different needs. And so the other poll that we just sent out was, how strongly are you considering millennial preferences when planning your company-wide experiences? It's more relevant than you might think because millennials truly are shaping how people approach their people programs. And it looks like most people are either somewhat considering or strongly considering. I don't know, a lot of people are very strongly considering, which is interesting, but makes sense given that we're the largest generation in the workforce. But if we take a look at Maslow's hierarchy again, most of the things that drive millennials' job choices are at the top three rungs of Maslow's hierarchy. And so the difficult thing about designing personalized programs is that not only do millennials want the security of the bottom, but they're also aiming to attain the top three levels as well. And that's all from a job, right? Which is completely different. And so this is obviously a challenge for total rewards and HR leaders when it comes to program mix and design. But the key takeaway is this: there's more than just the worker self to consider when designing programs. There's the holistic self, and to build truly personalized programs, leaders need to consider all 5 levels of Maslow's hierarchy, which leads us to simple truth number 2. People want to be treated like humans. They want to be recognized for their unique strengths, their eccentricities, the traits that they hold dear to themselves, and people really do want to be treated like individuals. And just because millennials want it and look for it in a job, it doesn't mean that other generations don't as well. And it's possible that other generations wanted these things from work all along, but they were so stuck in the old paradigm that they didn't even know they could ask for it or were looking for this type of fulfillment from work in the first place. And so why is this idea of personalization extremely important now and in the future? There's a quote from Harvard Business Review from last summer that we find very relevant at Blueboard. And they stated that millennials are the first generation that are true consumers of the workplace. So let's think about that. Millennials are consumers of the workplace. When I first read it, it made so much sense. Our generation is choosing jobs the same way that we choose which brands to shop at and which products to buy. We're choosing our jobs based on data points, ratings, and signals The same way that we shop for the top-rated espresso maker on Amazon, or the way that we look for the most relevant series on Netflix. And the bottom line is that today's workforce expects personalization because we're so accustomed to it with the products and services that we use every day. And it's clear that the companies that figure out how to offer personalized people programs at scale, they're going to have a huge advantage in the war for talent. And so let's take a look at our internal framework for an ideal people program, and show how companies typically evolve their people programs over time. And so we have two axes here. On the far right of the horizontal axis, we have highly personalized programs. And at the top, we have highly scalable. Now, let's start with the holy grail of human-centric programs, where all of us want to be, in the upper right. A highly personalized program that's scalable across a global organization. Like, sounds great, right? But obviously, most companies don't start here with their programs. They typically start down in the lower right, which is highly personalized, but without any type of scale. And so, just as an example, let's think of any grassroots HR program that you or another ambitious colleague has started. Maybe, let's say, a more exciting onboarding program for new employees, or an informal mentoring program. Early on, these programs tend to be highly customized to the early employees that use them. They get rave reviews, but eventually it becomes tough to manage. And so what happens next? Typically, HR managers decide to formalize the program and put some processes in place in order to increase the scale. And so this often happens at the expense of a bit of personalization. And we'll walk through an example of this step in a couple minutes. Eventually, the program grows to the point where it's unwieldy to manage internally, honestly, just because of its own success. And managers face a very tough question of how to scale a successful program even further. And typically, to scale a successful program further usually involves bringing on an external software solution, which will make the program highly scalable at the expense of almost all personalization. So up here in the upper left. And that's where many companies at least, get stuck today with their programs in stage 3, where they have very scalable HR programs, but they just don't have any warmth or personality, no personalization. And so the question lies, what about stage 4? How do companies get to stage 4? Is it even possible to get to stage 4? And the answer is yes, it's absolutely possible. And the next generation of best-in-class HR technologies are going to enable companies to jump from whatever stage they're currently at to stage 4. And Blueboard is leading the charge specifically for recognition. And taking a look at this other poll that came out, it seems like most of you are at stages 1 and 2 when it comes to your people programs. And that's very, very typical. So simple truth number 3 is delivering human-centric programs at scale is difficult, but it's not impossible. And let's go ahead and look at this framework through a quick case study, specifically the evolution of recognition programs. And the reason we're picking recognition, actually there's two main reasons. One is we understand this market the best, and it's an easy target because so many companies are at stages 1, 2, and 3 when it comes to recognition, but there's a real desire out there for companies to reach stage 4. And the second part is we've talked a lot about personalization and what employees really want. And recognition is truly a lower hanging fruit program that touches all 3 of Maslow's top human needs, and fairly easy to implement, and in a short period of time can have a really high level of impact. So we'll start with a quick recap or look at the US recognition market. So US companies spend more on employee recognition than any other engagement tactic. It's approximately 1% of payroll, but despite the billions of dollars that US companies spend on recognition, it's really not working today. Burson by Deloitte found that 87% of the dollars spent on recognition don't have any measurable return on investment when it comes to engagement, retention, performance, pretty much any meaningful business metric. And we believe a large part of that is that companies have the best intentions when it comes to recognition. And that's clear because they budget a lot of money for it. But they often get stuck at stages 2 or 3. with very little personalization. And so let's take a look at how recognition programs evolve and how companies ultimately find themselves at stage 3. And we're going to illustrate this with some companies that we're close to and the journey that they've taken through our framework to create the optimal recognition experience, specifically around anniversary rewards. And so first, let's take a look at a classic stage 1 program. We're going to talk about Bungle. Bungle was actually, oh, sorry about that. Bungle was our first client for Blueboard back 3.5 years ago. And they had an awesome anniversary program when we started working with them. And it was totally something indicative of stage 1. At Bungle, on your anniversary, on the day of your anniversary, your admin would come up and say, hey, congratulations. Thank you so much for doing all this hard work. We want to send you to any restaurant of your choice. You just tell us, we'll make a reservation for 2, we'll pay for the whole thing. All you need to do is show up, which honestly is awesome recognition. It's a great reward and experience, but as I'm sure you can tell, that's not very scalable at all, right? So highly personalized, not scalable. As soon as a company reaches 50, 100 employees, you can no longer justify that admin's time to go around and make dinner reservations for people. It just doesn't make sense. So highly personalized, not scalable at all. And most companies then end up graduating to something like stage 2. This is another one of our early clients, Hoopla. Their anniversary program was also very cool. It had elements of personalization and also a little bit of scale. And so the way that Hoopla's anniversary program worked is on the 1st of every month, the admin would send out a mass email to everybody whose anniversary it was that month. And there were 6 experience choices. So people could choose between couples massages. I think there were Giants club seats. There was golf at Pebble Beach, I believe, and a couple other cool experiences. And the employee just had to mark what they wanted to do on the Google form, and then they could make the reservation and pay on their own, and they'd submit their receipt to HR for reimbursement. So here we see a program that's obviously a little bit more scalable. They've created a Google form. It goes out to multiple people. We're cutting a lot of admin time out. So it is more scalable, but it's also lost a little bit of an element of personalization. And so that's where we see a lot of companies get to. And then ultimately, a company or a program like that even becomes unwieldy. And that's typically when companies start bringing in external solutions and products to run their recognition programs. And an example of this is my former employer, Accenture, which is actually where I came up with the idea for Blueboard in the first place. Now, Accenture is classic stage 3, highly scalable rewards solution recognition program with almost zero personalization. And my experience at Accenture was the following. On my 1-year anniversary in the morning at exactly 7 a.m., I got an email that could not have been more impersonal. It said, "Dear Taylor Smith, comma, we really appreciate the work you've put into Accenture here this past year. Thank you so much. We wish you luck and hopefully many more years to come. Sincerely." And then there was a picture of our CEO's signature at the bottom of the email. And right below the email, there's an email delivery receipt right below the signature that said, "Delivered to employee number 18563567 on October 11th, 2011 at," and I have a timestamp. And it was very, very obviously just a completely automated email that had zero personalization. And that just honestly didn't feel great. And that's why I ended up leaving Accenture to start Blueboard, is because I knew that there was a better way to do things. And so that leads us to stage 4, Blueboard. And what we've created at Blueboard is a recognition solution that's very personal, down to each individual person, and it's instantly scalable. And I'll talk about what that means in a second. But in short, Blueboard, we help companies create best-in-class recognition programs. And the secret is our ability to deliver highly personalized experiences at scale. And so what I mean by scale is we've made it take virtually no work for managers to give meaningful recognition. So we enable managers to send curated experiential rewards to employees in under 30 seconds. And we fulfill these experiences in all 50 states and over 20 countries. And there's 2 reasons that we're highly personalized. So first, when someone receives a Blueboard reward, they can choose whichever experience is most meaningful to them. So it takes the guesswork out of the equation for managers. And the second part is we're taking recognition, which is typically a very insular event, and we're making it shareable and exciting within companies. And let's take a quick look at what I mean by that. So most employee recognition has very limited longevity, and it misses the majority of the potential value that recognition solutions, at least in our opinion, should provide. And let's look at the value just as an example of one gift card or monetary reward being given out. We can say gift card for this example. Let's say that someone receives a gift card for doing an excellent job at work, and they'll be recognized, which is great. So there's absolutely value in that recognition moment. But after that, there's very little or no value over time. And what I mean by that is an employee is not going to come into the office on Monday telling everyone how they spent their gift card and being all excited about it, or they're not going to look at the gift card on their desk and think about how happy they are to work for their company. It just doesn't happen. And so we believe that companies that use this type of recognition are missing out on the whole second half of the equation, the whole aspect of personalization. And to see the comparison, let's just look at the value of one experiential reward being sent out. Just like gift card recognition, at some point, someone is recognized with an experience. And so absolutely, there's a little bit of value in that recognition moment. But what happens afterwards, that's the difference. The difference is what happens after someone is recognized. The value continues to grow over time. And so when executed correctly, this experiential reward will become a memory that your top performers are going to associate with your company over time. So they choose a personalized reward. Let's say, I don't know, they could take their kids to sit at a baseball game. Let's say someone takes their husband to a glass blowing class, for example. It would lead to a multitude of positive outcomes, including your employee feeling that you as your employer cares for her because the reward was personalized. She would probably share on social media about her experience and give a shout out to her company like a lot of our clients do. She'll probably come back to the office telling her coworkers about this awesome experience, which helps you create a social culture centered around recognition that people actually like talking about. And from there, there's long-term benefits like positive word of mouth about your employer brand, both inside the company to coworkers, but also outside the company, which helps build overall employer affinity and long-term retention rates. And keep in mind that this is the value created by just one experiential reward. And imagine when companies send out 10 or 100, or even some of our clients that have sent out over 1,000 Blueboard rewards, how that value compounds and contributes to culture over time. And the great thing about recognition is our fourth simple truth. Recognition is a lower hanging fruit initiative that touches all three of Maslow's priority human needs, which is something that today's workforce is looking for as far as personalization. And again, recognition is easy to implement, and there's really high impact if it's executed correctly. And so just a couple of quick things on Blueboard. So our main value that we bring to clients is we allow them to send meaningful, memorable experiences to their top employees with just one click. And instead of building something internally, because a lot of companies do build this internally and they get to stage 1 or 2, we help companies jump straight to stage 4. And we're lucky enough to work with over 100 clients today. Some public companies like Pure Storage and Pearson. We work with tech companies like Pinterest and Lyft. And we also work with more traditional companies that people might not even associate with Blueboard. Chick-fil-A is a Blueboard customer, and there are actually line cooks at your local Chick-fil-A's that are being recognized with Blueboard rewards. Same with Otis Elevators. We have elevator technicians that are being rewarded with Blueboard rewards to take their spouses on weekend getaways or their kids on cooking classes and things like that. So, which is really cool. And I think the reason for this, again, is experiences are incredibly personal, and they're also very universal. People like celebrating with loved ones and friends, and I think that's why we've been able to have the pleasure of working with so many great companies. And the good thing about Blueboard too is every time that we send out a reward to somebody, we also send a pulse survey to get a sense of how that employee is feeling about culture and also specifically the culture around recognition. And so looking at this poll come in, that's actually about right. So Gartner has found that about only 10% of companies are measuring the impact of their recognition programs, which I think also explains why companies, or why Deloitte found that companies are just not seeing any return on investment. It's hard to make a return on something that you're not measuring. So that sounds pretty accurate. The great thing about Blueboard, we have amazing feedback. 97% of employees felt appreciated when getting a Blueboard reward. 96% felt motivated to perform at the same level or higher. 97% believe it impacts culture and that it's also a great tool to retain top employees. And so we do make this data available to all of our clients to report on program success. But yeah, I would like to end today by just summarizing our 4 key points. So first, to attract and retain the best talent, understand what people want and then deliver it. Number 2, people want to be treated like humans. Number 3, delivering human-centric programs at scale is a challenge, but it's not impossible. And number 4, recognition is a lower hanging fruit initiative that touches all top 3 rungs of Maslow's priority human needs. And as far as a takeaway for today, what I would recommend, which is a really helpful step for HR practitioners to take, especially when we work with them, is you might want to take the framework of highly scalable versus highly personalized and plot your own people programs on there to see. It's usually really illuminating to see where various programs sit on the quadrants, because it becomes apparent that there's usually investment into some programs but not others, and some programs are more impactful than others, obviously. So it just provides a good framework to see where you are today and also where you want to go in the future. And with that, I would love to open for questions if anyone has anything that they'd like to ask. And someone asked what countries we're located in. So we are based in San Francisco, but we do support employees across the United States in all 50 states. And we're in over 20 countries, so a lot of EMEA and APAC. But if you have specific questions about a country list, you can just shoot me an email at taylor@blueboard.com. Cool. Another question came in. What kind of integration is required to make this experience happen? And that's a great question. We don't require any types of integration, though we can handle all types of different like HRIS integrations. As far as getting launched with Blueboard, all it takes is creating manager accounts and doing a training on how managers can send rewards, which honestly takes under 30 seconds. That's the only information we need to get up and running, and it takes about a week or so. Good questions. Okay, so the next questions we have coming in are about cost. And what kind of costs are there for the experiential rewards? So we have, there's 3 components to a Blueboard program. The first is reward value. And so these are just the experience, these are the dollars that go towards your reward budget that's going to go towards your employees. So let's say you have a $50,000 recognition budget that you want to buy Blueboard credits with. That's one part of the equation. The second part is how we make money, which is our enterprise and service fee. And so there's a percentage that we charge on top. And then there's also a one-time configuration fee, which ranges from companies that are 100 to companies that are tens of thousands of people as well. The next question that came in, are we integrated with Workday? So with Workday, most of our clients use Workday. We do take Workday like hierarchies and information. We do load it into our system. It's not a direct continuous integration, but it's something that we update on a cadence, usually every 2 weeks or so. Oh, cool. Another question. when does the human-centric journey begin? That's a really good question about personalization. At Blueboard, we really believe that the human-centric journey begins with the candidate experience. Personalization should be considered from the second that someone engages with your company, especially given the fact that, I mean, there's a lot of emphasis placed on talent acquisition. Even investment dollars in Silicon Valley, the majority of dollars are going into talent acquisition. And so really that personalized experience should start from the first time a candidate reaches out to you, because it's a great opportunity to set their expectations and to differentiate yourself from other companies that they may be looking at. We had another question about specific questions, specific countries. UK, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore. Yes, we serve all of those countries. What are the usual occasions that Blueboard is used to recognize? That's a great question because we do see it differ a lot from client to client. We see Blueboard best used into programs that companies may already have, but they're using a different type of reward. But the good thing is Blueboard rewards can literally be used for anything. So we see a lot of anniversary programs. We see Blueboard rewards used as sales incentives. We even have clients that roll out Blueboard to every single manager in the company, and they use it as spot rewards and spot bonuses. And other things that you would expect, like birthday gifts, employee referral incentives, peer nominated awards, employee of the quarter awards, executive awards. I mean, the list goes on. I think really companies that use us aren't looking for a specific use case. They're looking for a reward that's much more personalized and something that they can easily deliver. Does anyone have any more questions? Oh, yes. Can we give some examples of rewards that are offered? Absolutely. So our promise with Blueboard is we do maintain a curated menu of experiences that has 30 or more choices for every single reward level. And our promise to our clients is that we'll have something that every single employee wants, whether they're a millennial straight out of college or they're a baby boomer that will be retiring within the next several years. And we focus a lot on the psychology of experiences and what makes people happy. We really geek out on that stuff at Blueboard. And what's interesting is that different generations care about different things and different things make them happy. And so for millennials, and you see this in social media all the time, what drives happiness is typically scarcity and things that have never been done before. So millennials like going to a mountain that no one's climbed and like taking a picture of them hiking it, or going to a tropical beach, or doing something adrenaline related. Like it's all about newness for millennials, and that's how they gain their happiness. For older generations, it has less to do with how new and exciting the activity is. Happiness is much more driven by quality spent with loved ones. And so someone taking their kids to a Giants game, sitting in club seats, that can make a baby boomer just as happy as a millennial who gets to take cool Instagram pictures, bungee jumping up in Northern California. And so we do have a menu that spans everything from millennial adrenaline, like jumping out of planes, driving NASCAR race cars, renting a Tesla, all the way through things that people can do with friends and family. So glass blowing in art classes, couples massages. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, and I was going to say too, a really great place to start just to get a few examples would be to go to our website and go to blueboard.com/experiences. We'll give you a sample of some of our most popular ones there. And for Margaret's question, if you want to learn more, we'd always be happy just to grab a few minutes with you on the phone to go through more information, especially knowing that your employees might be different. You might have a heavier weight in boomers or Gen Y or millennials. So really thinking through your specific needs is a great way to connect with our team. And I think we have about time for maybe 2 more questions. We got a question actually in about personalization by country. We can cover that one too.
Sure. Yeah. So we have different menus for different areas. And so when people log in from different countries, they'll only see the ones that are relevant to them. So if you're in Tokyo, you're not going to see tickets to a Giants game. And if you're in France, you're not going to see tickets to the Super Bowl or to the Grammys. And then, is Blueboard used for performance recognition? How do your clients usually measure performance? That's a good question. Absolutely. Blueboard is used for performance recognition. And as far as measuring performance, it really depends over what department we're recognizing performance. Sales incentives are a big use case for Blueboard. And obviously there's a lot of like metrics around sales performance. And so that's one key area. But we also have clients that measure customer service time and like average speed to response, and they'll reward their speediest customer service reps. Or we've had clients that have rewarded engineers for fixing bugs on a timely cadence. And so yeah, Blueboard itself, just to be clear, we don't track performance metrics per se. Like we're not a dashboard for doing performance metrics. We specifically deal with the reward and recognition piece after someone has achieved. And yeah, I think that's about it. Morgan, do you have anything else to add?
Sure. I was just going to say, I see 2 more questions that are around privacy and taxation, and those are definitely questions we'd love to answer for you. Probably best also kind of in person over the phone, just to really understand your business needs and make sure that we give you the best advice there. So my recommendation would be, we'll actually be closing up the presentation now, and you'll be hearing from me over email. We'll be posting a video and a recap of all the great learnings that Taylor shared to our website on our blog. So I'll be sending out the links to that over email, as well as the opportunity to book time with our team individually to either learn more about Blueboard, get some best practices around recognition, or to answer some of those more specific questions that you have either around taxes, privacy, etc. So on that, I know that we're coming up on time, so we'll go ahead and close out. You'll see on the screen too, if you do want slides or want to contact Taylor directly, his email address is there at taylor@blueboard.com. But yeah, for that, thank you guys so much for joining. We loved all the feedback and questions. We'll definitely be hosting more webinars regularly, so look out for invitations there. And with that, have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.